to put up another. We're recording the video. Oh, actually, it might have just kicked live. Maybe.
All right, cool.
I don't know.
Anyways,
YouTube might be MIA for a little bit.
Yeah. So, intercooler data for S6, S7. That is something we should have by the end of the year. This is
Looks like YouTube just went live, so apparently there's a couple minutes missing from YouTube now.
This is a task that we're reserving for our upcoming calibrator, Nick Gambaluri. So when he starts, this will be one of his projects.
Sorry, what was that?
S6 4.0T heat exchanger data.
Oh yeah. There's a number of performance metrics and data collection we're gonna.
My knowledge,
put on
would
Nick's
be
plate.
the only ones that have data. Does anyone else list any data with theirs?
Like real data? I don't know.
Yeah, the
Other than some,
3.0Ts had data, but
yeah, then maybe some road logs, which are fraught with lots of variables.
Yeah. So, anyways, it's coming. Probably like in the next couple months, we'll get that up. Any new news on the flash at home for A6 C7.5? I heard there was progress.
There is some progress. Yep. I've been working on it a little bit here and there. I don't have anything definitive yet, but we are a little further along with some of the flashing routine stuff on it.
Yeah. I mean, just about everything, we don't have a date, but we are working on it, and progress is being made.
Yep.
And I have a 034 rear sway bar on my 2019 Golf R. I used the grease that came with it when I installed it, and now it would be time to grease it again. What type of grease do you guys recommend? The grease that we recommend, we are adding to our website soon, probably in the next week or so. So if you want to keep your eye out, we will be releasing this grease. You can purchase it from us, or you could research what grease it is on the market and buy it from some other source. I don't have the exact, off the top of my head, and that's not what the intention of these live streams are for. But It is, Nick. I think it's coming up, right? Jeff's going to be adding it to the website very soon. The grease,
the sway bar grease.
Yeah, so we'll be uploading the grease and a gun for the grease. And you can buy both from us. Any update on 19-inch ZTF wheels? Assuming if you're asking about RS3, yes.
If we have a lot of 19s coming,
we also have the B8, B9 fitments, which are also coming.
And B5 and GTI.
I believe we'll be releasing those in early to mid-November. So they are on their way from the manufacturer. We don't make wheels here, so we'll have them soon. But yeah, thinking early to mid-November. That's the current from the handoff meeting.
Yep.
Do upgraded boost pipes make any difference on my Stage 1 Mark 6 GTI? No. I mean, I don't think so.
I don't think there's any data that I've ever seen that would validate that on a Stage 1 car, particularly even up through KO4 cars. I don't know that we've seen.
There's a lot of companies that sell these upgraded boost pipe products. You can buy this. I mean, a lot of it's just crap you can buy on Alibaba or whatever.
These days, yeah, for Mark 6, it's ubiquitous.
I know there's some reputable companies that sell them too, but we've looked into them. We've done testing on them. We would only offer a boost pipe product if we thought there was a reliability concern or if there was a performance improvement. And we don't really offer a lot of those products anymore. It used to be a much bigger problem in older cars.
Yeah.
Especially like on the 270 era cars, the 180, those hoses would just fall apart. And we actually did a hose set for the S3, which are just upgraded silicone hoses for the factory hoses. But we don't really claim that there's a big performance gain there. So no, not on a Stage 1 car. I think when you're up in the 500-600 horsepower range and you've got a big turbo, at that point you want to start taking a look at how much some of those parts flow. And you're just going to need to naturally upgrade those pipe sizes just due to the coupler sizes and the size of that turbo. So, but on a Stage 1 car, I would focus on intercooling. On a Mark 6, there's a turbo muffler delete. I don't know about the turbo inlet pipe.
No, not on those.
An intake, there's going to be a benefit on the intake, but if you want to make more power, going stage 2 and doing a KO4 on that car will be much bigger benefit.
Yep.
I would spend the money on any of that ancillary BS on an actual turbo upgrade.
Yep.
Which for sure flows more power, and then a good tune to support it.
Good intake, good tune, good
good exhaust.
Good hardware where it's needed.
Will B8.5 S4 intake be open or closed? It will be open.
It'll be open.
Be very much like our B5 X34 intake. Basically the idea is when you shut the hood, the hood becomes the top
one of the
airbox
ceiling
and
tops.
Essentially, cuts off access to a lot of the.
It's not a perfect seal, but it does isolate quite a bit of that.
You actually don't want it to be a perfect seal because what we found is when the intake doesn't seal to the hood, it actually flows better.
Yeah, that was more a comment to the people like, well, it doesn't seal up entirely, which we've had before on our like our 8J TTRS, but
once
there's
the
a
car's
reason
moving,
it doesn't seal. It's
once the car's moving, there's not a bunch of hot air sitting around the intake. So if you're talking about the heat in the engine compartment when the car's standing still or going very slow, then yes, there's a lot. But as long as you're doing 15, 20, 30 miles an hour, there's not a lot of heat sitting around the intake there. Plus, the bulk of the airflow is going to come through the more free flowing parts, which are the front fascia inlet.
Yep.
Will any products you currently make for the B9A4 work on the B9 Q5 2.0? Are there plans for tuning? I'm sure some will, but we think we have a B9 Q5.
No, and
we have an XQ5.
I gotta check my brain isn't quite awake this morning. I can't honestly remember if those are MG1 ECUs or not. So
some parts may, and we have to.
The Q stuff is always later in our development process because those cars are very much not a buy and mod type of market.
The SQ5s are sooner.
Yeah.
Because it's a performance model, but usually the Q is
it's usually
typically purchased by someone who's not looking for performance.
Right, and it's the off lease, second owner, third owner kind of guys. We're really getting into them.
But sure, why not? I mean, the Audi SUVs are their best selling, most popular models right now. So we will definitely be looking at that. I'll say I don't think in the next 6 months to a year we won't be prioritizing that. But the tuning, I don't know if the tuning will be.
Well, that's what I need to know. Well, so that's what I need to.
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head.
We have to
I believe those are MG1, similar to the Tiguan and some of those that switched over earlier. But I need to check that. They may be 18.
How do I properly install your stud kit on my Mark 6 GTI? Well, it's pretty simple. You remove your stock bolts and you thread the studs, our studs in to the hub, and there's a little Allen on the end. If there isn't, then you can thread it in by hand until it bottoms out. If you're concerned, you can install with some blue Loctite. It's not necessary, but one good thing is if you Loctite the stud in the hub, then when you take the nut off, the chance of the stud coming out with the nut is greatly reduced. And then that's pretty much it. They're pretty straightforward. They essentially thread in. So if you'd like to use some Loctite to hold them in, you can, but it's up to you. I mean, it can't hurt to chase the threads in the hub. If you have an M14 by 1.5 tap, it's totally not necessary, but not a bad thing to do periodically on any car, just to keep the threads clear and clean, because any debris that gets in the threads will damage the threads over time. What are your thoughts on ported blowers on the B8, B8.5, S4, S5? Any plans on R&D for an upgraded supercharger core for the same platform? Well, we definitely support the ported blowers. They do seem to make more power, I think.
Sorry, I'm working on some stuff here. Can you repeat that question?
Ported blowers, do we support them?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they definitely make more.
A lot of people ask if they need a retune for it. I haven't seen that as being the case. We're talking some,
because
some
we have
smaller percentages of change when you're
We have a number of world records on essentially off the shelf.
Yeah, I don't do specific tuning for
We don't have a
ported blowers.
ported supercharger tune.
Yeah,
And
so-
we find no reason for one.
Right.
Yeah. Basically, I mean, do you want to?
Yeah, sorry, I'm dealing with some technical things
I
right
mean,
now.
basically, the ECU can calculate and model the amount of air coming in the. And so when a ported blower blows more air, essentially what a ported blower does is it allows the supercharger to create more pressure at a higher RPM than the stock one. So the ECU is able to compensate based on the RPM, the boost, and the modeled calculated airflow. And the ECU compensates for it by adding more fuel and adjusting the timing.
The ECU only really cares about the amount of pressure getting into the actual ports at the cylinder head.
Right.
Everything before that it's all accounted for essentially because it's measuring the last like 2 inches of air before they drop into the intercooler cores of the motor. That's all pretty well
the MAP
captured.
sensor is.
Yep.
So if the ported supercharger is able to produce more boost, then the ECU compensates. That's what the ECU does at every load and RPM. Yeah. So the difference between closed loop and open loop. Open loop is the ECU is programmed a certain way and it just runs. Closed loop means that the ECU is receiving inputs and data from various performance variables. Manifold air pressure, air temperature, RPM, air fuel ratio, knock activity. All the inputs that come into the ECU create a closed loop function where the ECU makes adjustment. It would be kind of like if you memorized how to run around an obstacle course with your eyes closed. You could get very good at that. But if anything in the obstacle course changes while you're running through it, you'll smash your face into it. So it's the same as our eyes and ears. We are observing our environment, and our brain is operating in closed loop to make adjustments to what we see and feel. And the ECU does the same thing. Then you start factoring in artificial intelligence, which goes even a whole layer beyond that, where artificial intelligence is interpreting the environment and making very qualitative decisions about what it sees. But the ECU can only do it based on what it's programmed.
Yeah, it's got some very discrete lookup tables for various conditions.
Yeah, so it's very much a if-then. The ECU says if the air temperature is this, if the manifold pressure is this, if the RPM is this is the map we're in, what we do.
Yep.
I shredded the outside edges of my brand new front tires at Laguna Seca with my RS3. Have the 034 rear sway bar and subframe inserts. Will the camber plates help with this while keeping good ride quality? Yes.
Yes, all the above.
We made this product for you. So, you are shredding the outside of your tires because from stock, the tire, if this is your contact patch, it's sitting very flat on the road. What happens is when you're going down the corkscrew or going through any of the turns at Laguna Seca, your car leans. And so if this is your car, this is the outside of the tire, your flat tire is now leaning. So your entire contact patch is on the outside edge of your tire. Your tire is not designed to work, with all the traction patch on essentially the sidewall of the tire. So by putting in a camber plate, your tire will sit more like this. And so when you go into the corner, your tire will sit flat on the track and you'll be using the whole contact patch.
Yep.
Our camber plates are fixed. They give you kind of the maximum, most optimal amount of camber that you could get by installing a product like that.
Yeah.
It will greatly improve your tire life. It will greatly improve your speed and traction through corners. It will transform the way the car steers going through corners. We've had a number of PTRS and RS3 customers tell us that our fixed camber plates were the most impactful mod they made to the car's handling, by far, even more than a sway bar. So yeah, I highly recommend it. It won't change the ride quality at all, but it's a great mod. We run them on all our in-house cars. That camber does transform the way the car handles. So our fixed camber plates will increase NVH some amount, and it's typically not bad. It's typically I'm at my advanced age, I'm pretty sensitive to NVH these days. When I was 20, I had a car that the suspension was so stiff that it would crack my windshield every 3 or 4 months, and that was a badge of honor. I would never drive a car like that now.
No.
No, so I don't think they're bad. I think it's well worth it. But we do use a stiffer rubber in the strut mounts, and so that does create some NVH. But as far as clunking or clicking or sounds like that, no, they should not be. And we have not observed those sounds here in our cars. We install these several times a week in our service departments. This is not a new product to us, and we do hear customers say that they're experiencing some type of noise, and it typically goes back to some kind of installation issue or torquing the strut nut properly, things like that. So yeah,
Yeah, because there are some tools needed to really get the proper torque on that top nut. So
yep. ALC on stage 1 ETA.
So it's advanced launch control on the 3-liter B8, B8.5 stuff. It's coming. We've been releasing them. A bunch of guys.
They've been rolling out.
I got set up last week.
I saw in the customer group a lot of people are putting them in, which is cool to see.
Yep. So at this point, keep checking. We don't have everything up, but a lot of the common ones are getting up or are up already.
Yeah. So if I would say every day before you log into TikTok, check our server real quick and and see. By the way, I signed up for TikTok last week.
Oh.
I did, and the level of distraction is insane. If I'm always like stressed about something happening, I just open TikTok and like a half an hour goes by like that. It's pretty amazing. There's TikToks for everything, for cooking. There's politics TikToks, woodworking, very, very many automotive, dating and advice, couples, gardening. Name a topic. There's a TikTok for it. So it's very informative, even to the Chinese government. They learn all this stuff about you, so it's great.
They really like to profile as much as possible.
Yeah, I'm like on it. Like, what could the Chinese government, likes to hear women talk about? Javad likes to hear women talk about horrible dating experiences. A great TikTok topic that I like. So, throttle body updates. So we shipped our first throttle body to ECS last week.
First in the wild, yeah.
First in the wild, and they have installed it. We have everything ready. We're just casting the adapter housing. Probably going to be let's just say January-ish. I don't know.
It really depends on, again, this is as long as the castings come back right, the machining's right.
As long as everything happens, but the point is not next week or not in 2 weeks, but again, worth the wait. But they are making progress. We priced them out. We're waiting for our first casting article right now. What hot products are coming from 034 soon? Well, funny you ask. We have our TTRS 4-inch, TTRS DAZA RS3 4-inch intake. This is the closed version, which also includes
the lower section.
A complete lower air box. Oh, I got it. So complete lower air box with the fresh air duct. And the reason we did the lower box is to increase this opening here. So there's a lot more flow and frontal area flow coming into the air box now. A popular 5-cylinder DAZA tuner tested this against the other popular intake on the market and said that it here you go.
You're all hands.
Yeah. They actually we have a customer, is it William Ryan? William Ryan has this intake on his car. He has an IROS which kit? 850S kit. The intake fully supports the flow of that. There was no issues with flow. And he has our open.
Yes, the open top version. Yeah, so we have both options for this.
We have both options. We recommend for maximum flow the open air box. An open air box is always going to flow more than a closed air box. Here's the open top. Thank you. So same basic setup. The intake tube goes in here and the air filter sits in there. So, anyways, another great DAZA option on the market. We took a little too long to come out with the 4-inch intake. If you're not worried about going big frame or real high flow hybrid turbo option, all of our current intakes are on sale for very, very cheap on our website. If you would like to pick one up, these are perfect for using with stock turbo inlet. We even had Iros flow that one on a big frame turbo kit, and there was, I think Hank said there was just a couple percent loss in flow, and that was like at an 800 horsepower level or something really high. So, for anything like stage 2 or stage 1 or stage 2 E85, our current intakes are a great option. And they're, like I said, really cheap right now. So go pick them up. We're just making room for these. We will just be moving to the full 4-inch.
Yeah, and we'll have adapters down to the stock turbo inlets and whatnot.
It includes adapters for the stock inlet, and we will also be selling just a tube upgrade kit. So if you currently have our current intake, you can just buy the tube and the supporting accessories to upgrade your current intake to the full 4-inch kit. So, anyways, these should be released in the next couple weeks. So stay tuned. Someone's asking, why don't you stuff a big filter in there like IE or Uni? So there's we like to talk about BS and snake oil, and theoretically big filters could or do flow more. However, there's an issue. This is what happens when people kind of isolate one variable. So if you had a flow bench with nothing around it, and you float a smaller filter and a bigger filter, the bigger filter would flow more. But if you took that bigger filter and you put a tube around it so it was shrouded, then the big filter at some point would flow less than the smaller filter. In fact, you could completely block off almost all the flow going into that big intake based on how it's shrouded. So our goal is to use an optimal sized filter and have the optimal amount of shrouding. So when you hear someone talking about huge air filters, then you need to immediately ask, how shrouded is that air filter? It doesn't help to put a huge air filter in a small space and block off all the air going into the filter. So this intake has been flow tested against the other options. It flows as much. No one has found the limit of this intake yet, so it could be well over 1,000 horsepower or more. But at the standard extremely high power levels that people are running, our smaller filter is flowing as much as the bigger filter options that could be more shrouded. So I'm not going to call anyone out or I obviously have opinions on it, but I would just ask anyone who's talking about big filters to also look at the shrouding as well. That makes sense. Just trying to think of a good analogy.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, exactly. So you could have a huge straw, but if it's in a tiny little glass, then it's not going to help you suck anymore. So
yeah, you're basically then breathing around the outside perimeter of what little gap's left. So the more you close up that gap, the less air you're going to be able to pull through it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it stands to reason that if you have an air filter and you wrap it in duct tape, which is the ultimate level of shrouding, no air will flow through. So, you don't need to use duct tape. You can use the side of an air box. And if that gets too close to the filter, air won't be able to go between the air box and the filter media. And that creates a restriction. So I've had the pleasure of working on an airflow bench in the past. And you can have an air filter on a flow bench, and let's say it's flowing 800 CFM, and it's loud, right? An airflow bench flowing that much air is deafening, so you have to wear hearing protection. But you can walk up to that, and you can just start moving your hand close to the air filter, and as your hand comes near the air filter, you can see the flow start dropping. Now imagine wrapping an carbon fiber air box around that and then flow it again. So that's why our open tops air boxes flow more than closed tops, and that's why a smaller filter in this location flows more than a big filter, because you don't want to shroud it. You don't want to block the air's ability to go in. All right. And it's just like it just bugs me, like the hype that gets created around the biggest filter. It's like, okay, well, there's more to it than that. We need to think more critically about how the whole system is working.
A big filter.
Let's back to the shrouding.
It's back to the shroud. I mean,
if you've got a huge open intake and a huge filter, you're fine.
Where's the lower? Yeah. So you have a filter inside here, and if your filter is pressed up against the bottom of this air box, it doesn't matter if the top's open. I mean, that helps, right? But you're still shrouded, 180 degrees of that filter. So maybe you have the top now, and so now it's also shrouded around the sides here. So maybe only the top will be unshrouded. Now, if you put a closed lid on that, you've now shrouded 360 degrees of that filter. So if you can move that filter up and leave a couple inches between the bottom of the air box and that filter, the air can move in there and flow freely. But the closer that filter gets to this, at some point, it's just going to be blocked. No air will be able to flow into it. So I'm trying not to make any real discrete statements, but just trying to give you guys the parameters, and on how to think about it. There's more to it than just cramming a huge filter in a tiny little spot. And there is a very popular intake on the market that people cut holes in. A lot of people don't talk about it, but you see a lot of these cars running 9s and 8s. They have holes in this supposedly high-flowing air box. So you have to ask, why does someone need to cut holes in an air box that's supposed to support 1,000 horsepower? Well, because it doesn't. So these holes de-shroud the filter and they reduce the pressure drop of the restriction inside the intake. So all things to ask about. I mean, I would rather run a filter that's properly designed and engineered as a complete system and not have to modify it, and also be able to think more critically about what actually makes this intake work, other than the one variable that people are obsessing about. All right, I probably said way too much about that, but I'll be apologizing about something next.
I'm sure there'll be something will come up.
But hey, I don't know. I've never heard anyone say that in this industry. I've never heard anyone talk about that. Maybe I missed it on the forums or the groups or something, but I've never heard another company come out and say that. So I think it's important to talk about this stuff openly, so that we can actually evaluate what really works.
Right, and it just comes down to everything has to work together. You can cram big things into little places, and it may not be the best solution.
Everything is a system, and everything, there's compromises and yeah. What's up?
Then there's also air shrouding helps hold air from the.
There's differences in shrouding versus airflow and
Yes.
air path control.
So imagine you have 10 variables that determine how well an intake flows. If you maximize any one of those variables, you naturally de-optimize all the other ones. And so a properly designed intake is going to have compromises across the board and all these different variables to create the most optimal result. The amount of heat in the, as I constantly discuss, the amount of heat in the engine compartment is not a substantial factor to determining the intake's performance, especially when the car is moving. So if you shroud over the fact that there's supposedly hot air that isn't there, then you've just created a restriction of the filter and lost power over a variable that didn't even matter.
To be clear, we're not talking about disregarding the air temps and breathing in hot air, but there's environments under the hood that may not be necessarily intuitive, where the temperatures and whatnot you're dealing with.
The underhood temperature is a consideration, which is why our air filter is in a box.
Yep.
Ours doesn't just. I think one company's just sits in the engine compartment.
Yeah, just sits next to the.
So we do take into consideration engine compartment temperatures, but it's not the only consideration. So you have to be careful. The best solution is nuanced in a wide range of variables. If you optimize in just one area, then it's going to be at the great compromise of others. I mean, you could you could just wrap the air filter in duct tape. That way, no hot air can get into it. I mean, how far do you take? How far
Yeah.
to what extreme do you take it? So the fact of the matter is, the open top with a little bit of space between the hood gives the right amount of shrouding from the heat sources that are there, but optimizes the flow and reduces pressure drop. So it creates the ultimate best result.
Yep.
There's just not enough room to create a big enough closed box air box
The zero compromise. Yeah.
in the engine compartment. So the other compromise would be you could have the intake come above the hood, then it would be big enough, right?
Better than closed.
Great question. So
I
some
think we need to
people-
repeat these questions too, because I don't think they can hear now.
Someone says, if open flows better, why do you offer a closed? So in certain countries, there are laws and restrictions that open intakes are not legal. So we offer the closed for that. And there are people who like the look of a closed intake better, so they're willing to make the performance compromise to have a closed air box.
And some don't want as much noise as you get along.
And it is quieter, yes. So not everything is based around the compromise or optimization of ultimate performance. We do offer an option that gives the best ultimate performance, but we do offer another option and it still flows a lot better than the stock air box. Well, yeah, so we do have a customer who ran 9s on this intake. Could he run faster if he had the open? Possibly. He'd have to.
We have to test back to back.
We could
and
send him an
measure it,
open
yeah.
one and he can try it. I mean, I'm talking about in generalizations here. I'm not presenting any data, but generally speaking, we in our testing, the data supports an open intake, and this is even on a dyno. We can shut the hood. There's no heat issues. We don't see air temps skyrocketing or the engine ingesting completely hot.
Yeah.
So
We have a decent fan setup, so it's somewhat representative of some road speed.
yeah, but it would
But
be
it's
the
not-
worst case scenario.
Yeah,
There's
it's
nothing to
really
do.
not. You're not going to get 130 mile an hour frontal
Yeah.
airflow on it.
Any additional follows? Okay, cool. Great questions, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me speak freely. I'm sure some people disagree with what I said. I hope I didn't offend anyone, but we just have to be able to talk about what's really going on. That's our only intention is just to talk about real talk. Hashtag. Coffee mugs update. Let's talk about something really, really fun. So we have found a new coffee mug option thanks to the viewers' feedback, and we have a 15-ounce option coming to market, which I think it could be the biggest mug in the tuning aftermarket. Is this a new world record, Nick? Can you do some research on that?
We'll have to find out if it's the North American record or yeah.
So speaking of compromises and optimizations, we looked at various coffee mug options up to 32 ounces and determined that anything bigger than 15 ounces, you would either need to straight up pound your coffee or you're going to be drinking cold coffee.
Yeah.
And so 15 ounce was the right compromise to give you the most coffee that would stay the warmest the longest until you finish the mug at an average drinking rate that most
And
customers
coffee
would
temperature,
engage
yeah,
in.
the beginning coffee temperature too. You got to
Yeah, I mean-
isolate your start temp.
Yeah, but most of the time they're 150 degrees.
Unless you're going after the
30
McDonald's
degrees,
model.
yeah.
It's like 240 degrees somehow.
So, but yes, figure we got some samples coming, and then we'll do some product testing. Assuming the coffee mugs pass through the process, we'll be good to release after that. Are the upgraded lower control arm and ball joints you alluded to in an earlier talk for the MPV something that will make it into production? Yes.
That's always our goal.
Engineering is working on these products as we speak, and we hope to offer a better solution than what's out there. I've seen some companies selling these huge hunks of aluminum,
Yeah, these big
that you
ball
bolt
joint
your
spacers
control
that
and it spaces your ball joint down like 2 inches, and it just looks. I guess they work. It's not
well,
something.
but it doesn't change any of the geometry. It's
No.
it's there just to kind of
It just gives you more camber.
force a camber change.
Yeah, but it's not something that I would run on a car that I own. So we will be coming out with a very elegant remanufactured ball joint that gives you the additional camber and corrects the suspension geometry to put the control arm in a more optimal position. And we're also looking at making these control arms.
Yeah. Yep.
So our ball joint and control arm will be slotted. So it will allow a much bigger range of adjustability than anything from the factory, and any of these aftermarket solutions as well.
And somebody's asking if the coffee tops are going to be open top or closed. I think we're going to do open top on that.
Yeah, no. So we our testing did determine that the closed top mug kept the coffee hot the longest, but the amount of sipping was greatly reduced. So again, we're splitting hairs here to. No, that's not something.
It's
we'll
like
do.
traction
Sorry.
control. No.
We have to draw the line at sippy lids. Yeah.
Oh.
All right. Are your MQB 4-cylinder intakes capable of supporting a 10-second Golf R? Yeah, so we have our X34, which we do believe will support.
Yeah. I don't see why it wouldn't.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
10-second Golf R is going to be a lot more, totally different turbo setups typically and all that too.
Yeah.
So it's going to be down to intake, a little more out of the norm intake.
If the hybrid can do it, then our intake will support it.
Yeah.
But and we do offer an open top of that, which for this application, I would recommend running the open top for all the reasons that have been discussed. Our P34 is still a very high flowing intake, but I wouldn't recommend it based on the panel filter.
Yeah. Same considerations. It gets to we would recommend the windowed X34 setup for maximized airflow into the box.
Someone's asking if the coffee mugs will come with crackles.
If you drop it,
no, but they'll come with sips. So as how loud you sip and stuff is going to be your crackle option there. So
I guess you could put chili in it.
Chili. Oh yeah, then you'll get all kinds of crackles after that. MQB ethanol mixture tuning coming.
Yep.
I don't know what.
So that's like ethanol E30 or E40 blends
E30.
for like S3 or GTI.
Yeah.
Yes, they are coming. We've got a lot of tunes we're hoping to get
With the additional
more progress
resources.
on. That we've got some more resources coming on board.
The additional resources we have now will allow us to supercharge, no pun intended, products.
Or turbocharge.
Yeah. When will Stage 2 Plus dual pulley 93 octane horsepower be released? This
That's
is
the
another
exact same answer.
Nick, this is a Nick Scambaluri project. And if Nick's watching, he's finding out all this fun stuff.
You can jot all this down. It's
yes, having Nick here will. And Nate just hasn't. The priority has really been releasing
all the advanced launch stuff, and then
launch.
supporting our existing customers,
the crackle tuning and tweaking that Nate's been doing.
And then Steve and I have been working on a bunch of new software stuff coming up for you guys for some
New
tools and
tools,
things. So there's a lot of extra stuff outside of just doing these calibrations that we're working on.
Yeah. B9 ResX ETA soon. I don't have it. I don't have a date, but I know we'll be doing photography on the production part this week, and we're just waiting. We're waiting for the parts to come in. So hang in there for a little longer. We appreciate it. Must have mods for B8.5 S4.
All of them.
I mean, our entire catalog.
So this is something we actually haven't. We meant to talk about this before. Is we're a little, I don't know, not biased, but spoiled by the cars we have here. We keep getting into a stock car once in a while, and it's pretty astonishing how complete our hardware and software kind of make these cars, and how much they feel like they should have come that way. So that's kind of a tough one to isolate in the answer, because we would just say all of our parts in our catalog, from the inserts to the tuning to the.
Yeah, I mean, on the power side, start with our stage 1 and go from there. It doesn't really cost you more to start at stage 1 and upgrade. We only charge you the difference between the different mods.
You're not wasting any opportunity.
And then you get to really experience each stage as well. On the handling side, I would definitely say start with our springs and rear sway bar, and the transmission insert is really transformative. It's one of our most popular products still. And then work your way through the rest of the inserts.
Sway bars.
The rear sway bar is one of the first handling mods I would recommend. And then, even like our front upper control arms really allow you to add extra camber to the car, and that really transforms the handling as well. So we have a lot of great products, but yeah, to Nate's point, we transform these cars, our development cars, and we drive them, and you get lulled into this notion that this must be kind of how the car came, because why wouldn't Audi have just made it like this?
Right.
It handles great, it's comfortable, the
Responsive.
performance is exactly what you'd expect. But then you get back into a stock car at some point, and you're like, oh my god, it's really bad. Like you forget, because you never feel like you're driving around in a race car or a highly
it's a highly modified car, yet
when it's our products.
It's
so
a lot of sensory changes and a lot of actual performance changes that come along with all these.
This was really noticeable. So we've had 2 stock GTIs in here this year, and the first one we got, I drove it stock. It was bad, and then we threw all our products on it, and I drove it several times over a few months, and it was amazing. I mean, the car is transformed. It handles like a go-kart. It's quick.
Yep. Good
car does
everywhere.
all the things you'd want it to do. And then we ended up selling that car to the MP CEO, Peter. Which is cool because that car is still in the family.
Yep.
And then we just got an older GTI for some testing we need to do. And I got back in that car stock, and it was just like, oh my god, it's so bad. It's slow. It wallows
around. Yeah.
It's just terrible. So you do get lulled into this sense that this is just how the car came. It should have been this good right from the beginning. So, Audi, if you're listening,
Thank you.
we're happy to thank you for making the car so bad, and we're happy to help out so you guys can sell these cars like this from the factory.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. It's the same thing, when I turned in our B9.
Yeah.
I drove it in modified. It was great. Yeah, our B9 A4.
Yeah.
And then we took all the parts off, and I drove it to the dealership 2 days later, and it was like, oh my god, how is this the same car? It felt like a Toyota Camry. Plans to support the UK market? Hey, who asked this question? Oh, okay. Yes. So we currently have support in the UK markets. Progressive Parts, awesome GTI. We have a number of. We probably have a good 5 or 6 really, really good shops supporting us there, and at least another 20 who sell our products. Now that we're part of Racing Line, we're definitely talking to them about inventorying 034 Motorsport parts in the UK to make distribution of our parts into Europe and the UK much easier. So that's something that we will be working on in 2021. But we're also, speaking to one of our dealers about playing a bigger role in the UK, stocking more of our products and doing more with them. So definitely coming. But if you ever need anything from us, we ship to the UK and to all over the world every day. And we're typically 2 to 3 days anywhere in the world. And if you check out our prices, you can add anything you want to the shopping cart and go to checkout, and you can choose your shipping method, and you'll see that our shipping prices are actually not bad, especially on smaller parts. It's the bigger boxes, the dimensional weight goes way up, but like some motor mounts or some inserts, you can, even a set of springs, you can ship for really cheap. Yeah. With the advanced 2-step launch, am I supposed to feather the gas to set RPM points and then mash wide open throttle? Like a wheel spin by flooring it from the start? Really a 2-step operation, feather and mash, ?
It all depends on the traction and power you've got at hand. So this is why we made it all adjustable, and you can set it where you want it. Some guys are going to have to do part throttle launching if your road and track conditions and tires are not able to deal with the full throttle launch even at your lowest RPM. That's kind of thing. You can also try and launch in basically in drive or comfort mode in manual. That'll give you the soft limiter. I don't know if this is a manual or a automatic car. I'm assuming it's a DSG. So yeah, there's a lot of options. It's kind of just finding that happy medium that works the best for your setup.
But if you're getting a lot of wheel spin, then you need to go to a lower.
Yeah, either lower RPM or if you've got a ton of power and not a lot of traction, you may have to you might have to feather it off the line a little bit.
Yeah, and that's a great opportunity to get some stickier tires. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're just wasting acceleration off the line if you can get more grip. So, I mean, if you're running like 400 treadwear, some winter tires, all season tires, this is a good chance to upgrade to a performance tire, even
Right.
our compound. Someone is asking, how is the NVH on an RS3 with your full catalog of Density line products, including street engine mounts? Asking as a fellow older guy. Cheers.
We should get Mark in here. He's a fellow older guy. He's got all that.
Well, not that old. Just older.
I said older.
No, it's just
I didn't say old
ancient.
Guy.
We like to
I
give
guess he's
Mark
pushing it.
crap about how old he is. So I would say all of it is totally livable.
Yeah.
The streets. So we actually don't offer a density engine mount product. We offer our motorsport mounts, and we offer a street sport and a motorsport option. I have spent a lot of time with both. The motorsport option is very stiff. I would only recommend that for someone who's looking for the stiffest, highest performance option that locks the drivetrain to the highest degree. But I have driven around on the street sports quite a bit, and they're not bad. You definitely will notice some NVH, but I think it's an acceptable amount for the additional performance you get from the drivetrain control. And again, you're going to notice some NVH. It's worst at like idle and in reverse, and there's like 1 RPM where you kind of pass through a resonance. So as long as you don't sit at that RPM, but my feedback
and it's not
is
something that I'm trying to think of. It's pretty low. It's not even something
It's
you would
minimal.
hit
It's
on,
not gonna-
on like the freeway. It's totally
I'm not gonna rattle
you
your
wouldn't
teeth
know
or
they're
anything,
there.
but it's noticeable. But my feedback was that when I was driving, and let's say I was on the freeway, I didn't notice the mounts, other than maybe the engine note sounds a little louder because the more of the engine sound is being transferred into the frame of the car, which is resonating and amplifying the engine sound. Not necessarily a bad thing. So I recommend the street sport mounts. They're not cheap to try out. It's a very good mount though. It'll hold up to anything you throw at it.
Yep.
And I don't know.
Dogbone.
Yes. Yeah. If you want to start somewhere more mild, our pendulum mounts and our upper and lower inserts will make a big difference. They won't solve the problem because there's just too much. The engine is actually sitting on the engine and transmission mounts, but the dog-bone, upgrades will help control the movement there. So if you have any more questions, hit us up. Generally, our street density products are designed to be very livable and to have minimal NVH.
Yep.
But NVH is very subjective.
It's tough to answer that one.
One person's horrible vibration is another person's pure joy and
Exactly what they want.
awesome, awesome thing. So, I wish you made more products for the B8A4 tune intake springs. Okay, well, we have heard you. We are working on all those products for the A4.
Yep, we are actually looking at, or we're picking up a car in the
gonna-
next week or so.
Yeah, we'll be buying a B8 or a B8.5 A4. We will be doing a whole tuning program for that. We have already begun initial engineering on an intake for the A4, and we will do some Dynamic Plus springs for that as well. I think our current rear sway bar will be a good fit for that, and we have a whole line of other products that already work on that.
Yep.
So,
Got a lot of inserts and all that
yeah,
stuff.
and we offer a really nice Wagner intercooler, which frankly we're not going to
re-engineer that.
improve on. Yeah. So yeah, it's coming. We will be working on the tunings, starting in the next month or so.
Yep.
No promise on dates or anything, but it's definitely coming. The bushings one, I think I thought I answered that last week.
Yeah, that's an old one.
Let's see, we're down to 2 minutes.
Sure.
See. What are the changes to the TCU 1.4 file over 1.33? Is
Yeah,
there
very
going to be
minimal.
one for the ALC?
Absolutely nothing you'll notice. It was literally just a change in the way we're doing the Tiptronic anti-kickdown. It's nothing that anyone would ever notice or feel. Due to one customer said it wasn't working the way he wanted, I just changed the way we were doing it. It's no one else has mentioned anything, and no one else probably noticed.
Yeah.
It's just a minor revision. There's no performance. There's no changes. If the TCU is doing everything you want,
Only if you're having an
Waste of
issue with
time.
your TCU.
Yeah.
Like how it's shifting.
and yeah, contact us. But it has nothing
Yeah.
to do with even the shift quality. It was just if and when it would kick down in manual mode.
Nate, is there an E50 file correct? Just needs requested? Question mark.
We really don't do an E50 file specifically.
No.
The calibration will
Benefit.
typically accommodate. We talked about this a couple of times, but
Yeah.
it'll accommodate a range of ethanol blends. There are occasionally some files we'll put up by request, which are a higher octane base file. So that'd be like running either 100 octane or whatever. That usually goes along with water meth. There's honestly not been a lot of. We don't do a lot for those other than adjusting some fueling stuff to accommodate the meth.
Squeeze in one last quick one.
Yep.
034 product testing on the Nürburgring now that Racing Line has access. Definitely something that would be cool to do. Certainly, there's a lot of cool, famous tracks in the UK as well that would be fun to go. So, we will be working on some project cars with Racing Line to feature our joint skill and product lines. So I would say 2021 should bring some very exciting developments in that area, and I'm personally super excited to be able to work with them on that kind of stuff. It's frankly,
and I mean, we've got
professionally a dream come true to
Right.
be able to work with another company that's so high caliber.
Yep.
On a not on a competitive, destructive
as
basis,
a collaborative effort. Yeah.
but like we're invested in each other's success, and it's awesome. So unfortunately, that just doesn't work very well when you're a competitor. We do our best, but it's really exciting to be able to work with someone on the same team. So definitely a lot of exciting Racing Line 034 collaboration stuff coming up. So I think we're out of time.
Yep.
Thanks again for joining us. Appreciate letting us talk openly and frankly. And I think that's what we commit to do. So we will see you guys next week for number 26. All right. Cheers. What did you say? I tucked in my mic. Good.